When you've experienced betrayal from family, friends, or spouse, how did you handle it?
Has betrayal caused you to feel misunderstood and you've lost all hope?
Well, today we're going to talk about this and help give you some support if you've ever experienced those emotions. There was a great story in the Bible, and it's about a woman who had been so betrayed and had experienced so much hurt in her life. She had had 5 husbands. Now, it's called the woman at the well. But have you ever asked, well, why did a first century woman, a Samaritan woman, have 5 husbands? I mean, that's extreme even for today. And if you'd had 5 husbands, how much distrust, betrayal, hurt, and wounding would you experience? I mean, if a person's been through that, 1 is enough. No. This woman had had it 5 times over. And so my thinking is, well, in the first place, why were there 5 husbands? Well, I'll tell you why. There was this rule in the land of Israel, first century. When we say first century, we're talking about the time that Yeshua walked on earth and he lived on earth. So first century Israel, 2 rabbis. And let me just say this. When you got 2 rabbis, you've got 2,000 million opinions. And they're going to rub each other in the good way and not so good way. One rabbi said, if you get married and in the first year you don't produce a child, then your husband can divorce you. Well, this rabbi was the prominent rabbi in this Samaritan village, and they followed him. And so this woman would get married, and in the first year, she didn't produce a child. And so she was thought to be, what shall we say here, tainted, first century Israel. And so their husband would divorce her and marry her again. Her problem was barrenness. She couldn't have a child. And so they were very superstitious in first century, you know. And so she would have to go to the well to get her water. They didn't, get to turn on the faucets back then, you know what I mean? Or flush the toilets. Okay, moving right along. That she would have to go to the well to get her water at a different time because there was a superstition. If a barren woman put a bucket in and drew water, that water might cause the rest of the women to become barren. And there was a secret message about water having a direct relationship with a woman being able to conceive.
I think it's important for us to understand that our bodies are 80%, almost 80% water. And a lot of times in that, we have in our body what are called lower waters and upper waters. And when these 2 waters are not flowing with freedom in our bodies, again, this goes back to our thoughts. We have this thought, but we have a different feeling in our heart. Those 2 waters are in opposition of each other. And if you can imagine 2 waters coming together, all of a sudden it's causing chaos. So this woman is filled with a lot of emotions to do with being misunderstood, of being betrayed. She's walking in her life from what we would call the lower waters.
Well, this is what happens. And so the Messiah says to her, hey, I'm thirsty, can you give me a drink? And she says, but wait a minute, I'm a Samaritan woman, I can't do that. And he said, listen, lady, if you knew who I was, you would ask me for, here we go, living water. And so living water was the way in first century that you said, I'm pregnant. Because you didn't come out and just say, I'm pregnant.
Right.
So if you had living water, that meant in your waters in your body, you had a baby. So she says, well, wait a minute. Where do I get this living water? Yeah. Because I can't take the betrayal and the hurt anymore. And some of you are right there today. Well, it goes on and he says, well, just call your husband. So now the Lord is going to help her get over this issue of being rejected and betrayed. And so he basically tells her, you're going to have living water, you're going to have, and which means you're going to have a baby. She runs out to the village. She tells everybody, oh my word, I've met the Messiah. And they're like, yeah. But she tells them, he told me I'm going to have living water. Well, the village comes out, they hear him, and they recognize that they have been, that this woman has had this meeting with the Messiah. And so they wrap their arms around this woman. Her barrenness is cured. She has living water inside of her. So in a moment's time, the love of the Lord, who sought out this woman and who's seeking you out today, comes with his love and his restoration to tell you that the cry of your heart he hears, he cares about, and he is the answer for.
There's several interesting things that are going on in this story that help us understand this woman's situation. Number one, she didn't go to the well at the same time all the other ladies went to the well, because the well was the meeting place. It's the social time. It's where the children come while the mothers are grabbing onto their chores for the day, getting the water to go and do what they want to do. And so she comes at a time, why? That is different from all of the other ladies, because she doesn't want to be around that social activity. She's already feeling misunderstood, betrayed. She has a piece of loneliness to her. And some of you today are in that very place. You've had a relationship and you felt the betrayal. You were misunderstood and it caused things to part and go separate ways. Listen, we would love for you to write that in the comment box. And perhaps if you're in the midst of that, how are you overcoming it? Or were you able to find a place that you were able to overcome? We care and we want to hear about that. Please put that in the comment box. So she finds herself in this place. And how do we shift from the lower water to the upper water? I think that's important for us to understand today. You can overcome.
Well, let's talk real quick about how you can't do that by yourself, because that was the thing. She was isolated. And as she stayed isolated from the other women, from the other people, and of course they pretty much were okay with that too, right? But as you stay isolated and disconnected, you will not be able to move from that place, because we were created to need relationship, to want relationship. It's not good for a man to be alone, what the first book of the Bible teaches us. And so here comes the Lord, and he restores her. So the first pathway back to wholeness is a connection with the love of the Lord. And then as your heart gets better with that, and your heart begins to feel whole and loved again, then other people have the pathway then to come back into your life. You're not so guarded and you're not pushing them away, because that part of your heart has been healed. Basically, by yourself, you're going to keep living the same story. But as you open your heart to connect with the Lord, it's going to change forever. So, have you ever been in that place? Are you in that place now? There is hope for you. If you've ever had your reputation ruined and you've wondered, how am I going to get it back? Please watch this next video, because we're going to tell you a story about a woman who lived that very message and her reputation was completely restored.